Guys, it is time to talk about the top 10 biggest changes or biggest differences that the Tower of God anime made from the original. This is just my opinion, and not all these changes are bad. Some of these are actually some good changes, but these are what I think are the biggest overall changes that I noticed from the anime. If there are some differences that I didn't name in this video, which I'm sure there are plenty, let me know in the comments down below, because if you want it, I might make another video on this topic. Also, be sure to watch this video until the end, because as we continue on the list, the number 1 spot and the 2 spot, they are the ones that make the biggest difference, in my opinion, to the overall story and the characters. So if you watch to the end, you'll see the biggest changes that the anime made. Number 10. Shanhua and Concho. Anime onlys might not know this, but the anime staff and team actually made some changes to who passes the position test and who ends up making it past the second floor. And one of those characters is Shanhua, the guy who fights in Dorsey during the hide and seek test. He has this really cool looking ignition weapon called an Armada, and in the webtoon, he makes it to the end. He's really good friends, he's like a partner to Narei, and both him and Narei continue on up the tower. And even though we don't see them again in the webcomic, it's assumed that they either left the group or failed later on. But it's interesting because Concho is used to replace Shanhua in the anime. He's the guy with... How do I explain Concho? The guy who had knocked beats up in the Crown game, that guy. In the original, Concho fails the position test. You see him a little bit after the Crown game, he plays a minor role in the hide and seek test, and then he's never seen again. He fails, and that's it. What's interesting about cutting Shanhua is that his family, the Hong family, plays a minor role in Tower of God later on, and there's some backstory involving that family, and another character from that family shows up later on. So it's interesting that Shanhua isn't included, because some of us assumed that maybe Shanhua would return in the future in the webcomic, but this, the way the anime handled it, means he's just never coming back. And I don't know, that's a little sad, but it is a change nonetheless. Number 9, Leiroro and Quant. The anime handled Leiroro and Quant pretty well over the course of the anime, but the end of their characters, the end of season 1 when it pertains to these two characters, is definitely different. In the original, Leiroro quits, just like in the anime, but then after Quant complains to Hansung about Leiroro quitting, Hansung actually fires Quant and tells him to go after Leiroro because they're a pair or partners, right? And there's this funny joke about the hamburger and the Coke, and that Leiroro is like the hamburger to Quant's Coke. They're partners, they can't be separated. And it's a funny thing. And then Quant ends up chasing Leiroro, and it's this funny conversation where Quant is kind of like a tsundere, like he's not admitting that he wants to go with Ro, but he basically does after all. And it's charming, right? And I think it stays true to Quant's character, right? He's kind of a goofy guy who's kind of volatile and crazy, and I really like it because it shows how much Quant cares about Ro, but in the anime, after Leiroro quits, he basically asks Quant to go with him, and he doesn't really want to leave Quant there with Hansung, which in itself is kind of cool, right? Leiroro's looking out for Quant, but it's funny because it's totally different than in the webcomic where Ro is like, don't follow me, you know, Leiroro's kind of like a lone wolf more so in the webcomic, but Quant tags along, so it's definitely a difference, and I don't think one is necessarily better than the other, but I thought I'd point it out nonetheless. Number 8, Levin. If you guys don't know who Levin is, he is the gun guy who is shooting people during the 400 to 200 regulars test, the very first test on the second floor. He's the one, you know, Rack bends his gun, and in the anime, he ends up showing up and you see him fail Leiroro's Shinsu test. Leiroro sort of uses him as an example because he's complaining, and he fails right then and there. But what you anime onlys might not know is that Levin actually passes that Shinsu test. He passes the Crown game, like he makes it all the way through the Crown game, through the positions test, and through the last examination. So Levin is actually a part of the main squad who makes it past the second floor like Shanhua. He's very similar to Shanhua. However, the reason why he's higher up on the list is because he fails way sooner than Shanhua does. In fact, in the original, he only plays a minor role, but he does play a role in the Crown game. He tries to shoot bomb, and the Black March stops the bullet, or that's what we assume happened. He plays a minor role in the hide and seek test, and he's one of the 2 light bearers that passes alongside Kun, right? And in the anime, they make it sound like Rachel passed, but then didn't pass because she's injured. So only 1 light bearer passes. It's a little weird, right? And he's another character who we assume must have failed because we never see him again in the webcomic, or maybe he'll show up later, but he probably just failed. But it's interesting, you know, he was cut massive. His role was massively cut in the anime, and I was a little saddened by it because our dub, if you don't know, we have a dub here on the channel of the original webcomic. It's going on for 3 years, and Captain Eagle's portrayal of Levin is fantastic, and it's made me love Levin so much.
Another one.
So rest in peace, Levin. You will be missed. At least anime Levin, you will be missed. Number 7, Serena. Serena is one of my favorite characters from season 1. She's such a realistic portrayal of what it's like to be in the tower, and she's not someone who's very strong. She's pretty much a normal person. She's somewhat skilled at being like a thief or a dagger. She even says her only real skill is like running away, right? And she has this whole backstory that she tells to Ho. Her character is really impactful. She represents what it means to like, she's basically what Ho could have been. You know, Ho and her are both weak. They didn't really have what it took to be in the tower. Ho made the wrong choices though, and Serena made the right choices. She chose to leave of her own volition, and this is why I like the anime. The anime had her choose to leave, and they gave her a goodbye scene with Shibisu, and she even gave him her dagger. I really like that scene. In the webcomic, she has that conversation with Ho. She talks to Ho while Dorsey's fighting Quant, and then she fails, and they have a drinking party, and she kind of smiles, and then you never see her again. It's assumed that she just failed, and then you never see her again. I like that the anime actually addressed her leaving, right? She's not a major character, but she was a part of the squad, and I really like how they just, everything about her character was really well handled in the anime, especially her goodbye scene with Shibisu. I thought that was really well done, and Shibisu, you know, saying, "Let's go, Serena," and he pulls out the dagger against the bull. Really well handled. I really like this change in the anime. Number 6, bananas. Us webcomic readers and anime watchers love Rack because he's such a lovable guy. He's a crocodile who's a spear bearer. He's kind of a tsundere in his own right. But if you didn't know, his chocolate obsession in the anime is actually more of a banana obsession in the webcomic. He's always talking about eating bananas. You sometimes see him eating bananas in the background. At one point, he's talking about pulling off someone's banana, so, you know, there's that. But what's interesting is even though he has a chocolate obsession in the anime, there is still a reference to his love for bananas when he orders a banana black in episode 3. And I really like this because it still hints at his love for bananas in the original. And it's kind of like a classic thing with Rack. It's kind of become a running joke in the community, bananas and Rack and everything. So I do like that Banana Black exists. Speaking of Banana Black, it's time to cut to a commercial break. Introducing Banana Black, the all-new delicious, delectable, and delightful drink that will surely help carry you up the tower. It's got all the taste and the texture that you could ever want. Go watch Chef PK's video and try it out for yourself. This is totally the same product. Now, back to the video. That was probably the weirdest thing I've ever done on this channel. If you're wondering what that was all about, this video was actually a suggestion from one of my $20 patrons, Smap the Slayer Anime. Thank you so much, Smap the Slayer Anime, for suggesting this video, sponsoring this video, and his condition was to include some kind of Banana Black sponsorship / commercial, so there you go. I'm never gonna live that down. That's gonna haunt this channel for years. And by the way, if you don't know what SMAP is, I recommend joining the Discord because it is quite interesting, to say the least. But back to the list, number 5 is the Black March. The Black March is a mysterious weapon, right? She's one of the 13 months. I really like how the anime portrayed her as this sort of mature figure. I always assumed she was a bit more of an innocent, sort of tricksy little girl, or like not little girl, but a younger woman. But I do like the mature take that the anime took on her character, but that's not the difference I'm talking about. The anime added a lot of new scenes involving the Black March, at least 2 significant ones. The first is after Bomb passes the test on the first floor, and the Black March is sort of like holding Bomb as they pass and make their way to the second floor in like this rainbow sort of style. And she talks about how he's basically, the next time he meets Rachel, it'll have been like a long time, or they will have lived a long time without seeing each other. And they sort of call back to this scene after Rachel betrays Bomb and everything happens. It still doesn't really make sense to me, but there is that scene, you know, interesting. But then at the end of the Crown game, there's this new scene and everything is changed here because after Bomb protects Rachel from Hwaryun, Bomb in the anime gets up and is about to finish off Hwaryun, which is pretty dark Bomb, but then the Black March pauses time, stops him, and then like just makes him pass out, right? The kiss of sleep or whatever. None of that happens in the webcomic. This is entirely new stuff. I think maybe what the anime staff wanted to do was make the Black March seem like more of a figure who plays a role in Bomb's growth in the story, instead of in the webcomic where she sort of appears and then doesn't appear again for a really long time and she's just in weapon form, right? That's the only thing I can think of, but it is a massive change. I think all of us webcomic readers were very surprised to see this, so I thought I'd point it out, and I don't mind it. I think it's kind of interesting, but it is a gigantic change nonetheless. Number 4. Blueberry. Blueberry is the member of the Coon family that Coon speaks to in his lighthouse. He has a real name, but the anime did not reveal it, so I'm not going to say it here. And he's an interesting character. He mentions that he's an outcast as well, but the biggest change revolves around his conversation with Coon. In the anime, he talks to Coon about Maria, and it seems like somehow everyone in the tower knows about Coon and Maria, and Blueberry is one of them, right? He talks about their whole relationship and how he can apparently take Coon to see Maria, and his explanation is that he just wants to mess up the Coon family. It's kind of a weird scene, not gonna lie. It seems kind of out of place, and I think what the anime production team and everyone wanted to do was make Coon's backstory come full circle in season 1, but I still don't really like this change. In the webcomic, Blueberry enters Coon's lighthouse because he wants to find his teammates, and at first he doesn't even realize that Coon is his brother. And I like this a lot because Blueberry is a ranker, right? Like, who cares about these regulars? He's just coming in, he wants to find Yuri and his other teammates, so he comes in, he borrows Coon's lighthouse, but then once Coon talks to him and asks if he's a son of Coon, then they have this conversation about family, and he's like, oh, you're my brother. And I really like this, you know? It's kind of like this interesting scene between brothers that isn't necessarily, it doesn't make Coon feel more important than he should. And I think this is really important because then they have a conversation about how Coon wants to be, you know, I'm Coon, I'm gonna use this name to rule the tower one day. And it's like, whoa, that's so cool. And then Blueberry says, I'm looking forward to seeing that, my brother, you know? But first, rule your lighthouse. Like, it's this funny scene where Coon isn't really anybody right now. He's just a regular, right? But his ambitions are big. But in the anime, they make Coon seem really important. And I don't know, it's just strange. Like, everyone knows about Coon and Blueberry. It's almost like Blueberry came to talk to Coon. But I like how in the original, he doesn't even really care about Coon at first. He's just kind of doing his own thing. It's more true to his character. And that's another change that I didn't really like this change, but it is a big change nonetheless. Number 3. Endorsi. I made a whole video about this topic, so if you want to watch that video, you can click the card here. It's much more in depth than what I'm gonna say, but basically, when Endorsi's about to kill Anak, when Ren is basically forcing her to, she is about to do it, but then she tells Anak, let's eat together, they attack Ren, and that's it in the anime. But in the original webcomic, before Endorsi's about to kill Anak, she has this flashback to her, a scene that she had with Bomb, a conversation she had with Bomb, when they're training together, which is another thing they cut. There's a lot that they cut with Endorsi and Bomb, but this is the big one. And Bomb talks to her about loneliness. And this conversation it's implied that this is what convinces Endorsi to climb the tower with Anak. She doesn't want to kill Anak. She realizes that these people are important to her, and she basically says, screw everything else, right? And this scene is so huge because it basically, the way the anime handles it, it almost ruins her character, right? Because her character goes full circle. She goes from being this bloodthirsty or merciless killer, right? She'll do whatever it takes to climb, to being somebody who actually does something for others. She does something that doesn't benefit herself. She saves Anak's life and puts her title and her life in jeopardy. And I really love that, but her just doing it in the anime just because, instead of having this motivation because of her conversation with Bomb, I don't know, it's a gigantic change, another change that I was not a fan of. Number 2. Ren's death. Overall, the anime handled Ren pretty well. He's very similar to how he is in the webcomic. I'm really happy they kept those weird scenes with him expelling all those fish and acting like a total psychopath. Like, overall, they handled Ren very well. However, in the anime, when Curtin comes down with the hammer, which by the way is also slightly different, Ren straight up dies. He's squished and he dies. He's like, I sent the bull, and then he dies, right? In the webcomic, he says, I sent the bull, but guess what? This is just one of my bodies. So he turns to Anak and says, see you again, mutt. And he survives. Like, that was just one of his fake bodies. He somehow has this ability to have a fake body roaming around, right? It's really interesting. But in the anime, he just straight up dies. straight up. I don't like this change because it sort of implies that we'll never see him again. And it's cool because us webcomic readers, we can't wait to see Ren again. Like, is he gonna show up and fight a knock again? Like, what's gonna happen? You know, it's so fascinating. But the anime sort of gets rid of that possibility unless they do something where he shows up and he's like, oh, I wasn't dead the whole time, which, I don't know, it's kind of cheap if it's implied he's dead. You know, at least in the webcomic, he admits, hey, I'm still alive, so when he shows up again, it'll make sense. This is something I'm not a big fan of either, and I think this is a monumental change. I mean, Ren was one of the main villains of Season 1, and killing him versus him not dying, to me, is a massive change. And finally, number 1, the biggest change, in my opinion, that the anime made over the webcomic, Bomb's explosions. So Bomb has 2 explosions in the anime, at least that's what I'm calling them, where he basically summons the sun to Earth. There's no other way I can really explain it. But at the end of the Crown game, when Bomb is protecting Rachel, he basically, from inside, unleashes this massive just amount of Shinsu that completely stuns everybody, and Hwaryun just gets wrapped up in it. It's crazy, and it makes people think that Bomb is this crazy strong monster, which he is. He has a lot of potential. But in the original, what happens instead is that Bomb, without even like realizing it, releases this quick flash of Shinsu that cuts Hwaryun in the eye. And later states it wasn't even that strong, but the way he used it, he didn't even make a contract with the administrator yet, and he's already using Shinsu. Like, that's the impressive thing. And I like this because it's slowly building up how impressive Bomb is without Bomb literally summoning the sun. He literally summons the sun! This isn't the worst change in the world. I get why they did it. They wanted to show you that Bomb is crazy. He's got potential, right? He's a monster. He's a powerhouse. But what I like is that in the original, they build up to that. It's not just like he summons this crazy thing and you know, rocks everybody's expectations. It's crazy. It's cool because he shows off what he can do without even realizing it, for one, and it's so quick, it's so like boom, but it still slices Hwaryun in the eye, and that still impresses everybody, right? I like that so much better. But also, when he fights the bull at the end of episode 12, in the anime, he gets swallowed again. Just like in episode 1, it's kind of like a callback. And then from within, he does sort of like another sun explosion. It might not be the exact same thing, like rewatching it, but it does seem similar, right? It's like this gigantic explosion. Well, in the original, Bomb waits until the bull gets close and then fires a beam of Shinsu through his mouth. Which, to me, again, it doesn't show you that Bomb is this crazy, powerful person. It shows you that he's smart. You know, he's putting strategy to use, and he's still using what he's learned, utilizing what he's learned, and I like this a lot. You know, I think that this is much better. I don't know, I feel like they're sort of overhyping Bomb in the anime. They're just like portraying him as this insanely powerful person when in reality he has a long way to go to be that crazy strong person. I don't know if that's really a controversial opinion, but those are my thoughts on Bomb's Shinsu explosions. I feel like if they cut back on it more, it would have been better. But overall, it's not like a bad change, I guess, but it definitely is a huge change. I mean, it completely changes who Bomb is to anime watchers and to the characters in the anime who are watching Bomb do this, right? It's a massive change. Everyone, including myself, was stunned when it happened in the anime. I was like, what is this? I've never seen Bomb do this, right? And so that's why it's number 1. I feel like it is the biggest change that the anime made. That is all, guys, for my top 10 biggest changes from the webcomic to the anime. If you enjoyed, please leave a like on this video. I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you want to suggest one video a month that I do on this channel, then become a $20 patron on my Patreon, because I'm constantly taking new requests and I'm working on all of them right now. Again, huge thank you to Smap the Slayer Anime for sponsoring this video. But if you guys want to support the channel and also suggest new videos, we can talk about it. You can give me your suggestion, and if it's a good suggestion, we can talk about how to implement it into a new video, and I'll make a new video on it. Simple as that. We're so close to hitting our next goal on Patreon. It's so exciting, because if we do, we're gonna make such massive progress in Season 2 of our dub. So your support by watching these videos and on Patreon, it means the world to me. But with that, I will see you in the next video, and meanwhile, I'm gonna be drinking some Banana Black, so don't mind me, and I'll see you guys in the next Tower of God video.